John Fless came came to me one day. He came with this idea that he wanted to show unusual movies at midnight at the cinema theater, and he explained to me that he had been doing movie showings around Hollywood in various cultural centers and the Jewish Center and the Ukrainian, the Russian Center. I mean, he showed movies, unusual movies around Hollywood, and he was looking to show them in a movie theater. And he had this idea that he would like to show a series of movies at midnight, and wanted to know if I would be interested in letting him do that at the cinema theater. And I have to say that we hit it off pretty nicely right from the beginning. I found him to be a really interesting person with this idea, a really interesting idea that just sort of fit right in with what we were doing. It sounded like it would be a nice addition to what we were doing, showing foreign movies. His thing was nobody was showing the New York underground movies in L.A. And I had been, because it seemed to be a good idea for me to be aware of what was happening in New York City. I had a subscription to the Village Voice, and so when John came to me, I'm pretty sure that I was already familiar with some of these films that were being shown in New York City, and this whole idea. I believe that there was a theater called the Charles Theater in New York City that was showing midnight shows of these unusual films. Flaming Creatures was already being written about in the Village Voice. So I was somewhat, just dipped my toe in that world and was interested in it. And then John arrives on the scene with his knowledge and his desire to do this, and so it seemed like a good thing. And I checked with my uncle Louis about it, and Louis was totally open to it. He had no hesitation, just said, you have my permission to do this. And although I don't think he had much of an idea of what I was going to do, but we did start it. We started it out and tried it to see if it would work, and well, it did work right from the beginning. Did we have a vision of what it was going to be like? I think mostly what we felt like was that we were just going to start something and see what happened. I don't think, I think John had this collection, and maybe it was in his mind, of films that he wanted to show. But there were these films coming out of New York, and there were films that were now beginning to come out of San Francisco. And there were distribution companies forming, like the New York Filmmakers Co-op and the Canyon Cinema Co-op in the Bay Area. These companies were beginning and looking for places to show the movies that they were distributing. And both of those companies, those two in particular, had the most wonderful approach to film distribution, totally different than any other distribution companies that I had experience with. They basically would take anybody's film and distribute it. No judgment. Didn't matter if they were good films or bad films, but if you made a film and you wanted it distributed, you gave it to either New York Filmmakers Co-op or Canyon Cinema, and they would distribute it. And it was a kind of I'm not sure the actual financial structures of those two organizations, but they were very filmmaker friendly. There was a whole other cultural change happening in the 60s in LA and everywhere, and we were just kind of riding that wave as well with our we were like another experience in a big ocean of new experiences that people were having. The love-ins and the be-ins and the whole hippie thing and the music scene and the rock and roll and all that stuff was happening and our little movie thing was, I think, it was, an image I have is that we had just installed an electric fence in our house to keep the bears out. And the way it works is it's like a pulse, that's going along this wire. And it's this pulse, and it's shocking when you touch the wire. And that's kind of how I see the Midnight Movie, because it was a regular, weekly shocked, not a shock, but a jolt to the community of people who were coming. They would get this hit from whatever it was we were showing, and it would always be sort of some new kind of an experience.